the world of political campaigns, we can't afford to risk things not working because our candidates either win or they go away forever. And if they go away forever, for me as a business owner, well, I don't make any more money off that politician.
So I'm curious, okay, you're looking at these demographics. We also kind of teach psychographics. I think clearly in your, there's got to be some sort of psychographic profile. And I mean, just to be 100% honest too, some of this stuff scares the hell out of me, Phillip. I'm sure you get that sometimes where it's like, man, what does Facebook know about me? I mean, what do these companies know about me? I bet you they probably know me better than I know myself. They can predict my next move better than I can sometimes. But like understanding people's psychographics, people's tendencies, people's, of course, their demographics, their age, their gender, their income status, their marital status, these sorts of things is useful. But do you also look at psychographics and kind of understand, what are their pain points? What are their big desires? What are their big fears? How does that play into all of these sorts of things?
This is how we look at sort of values. But what we also can learn is, are they seeking status, significance? Are they seeking certainty? During the pandemic, a lot of our ads for the companies we worked with moved towards security. We'll keep you safe. We'll do all this stuff because that's what we saw sort of in the psychological profiles of the customer base.
I'd love to hear, number one, the story of working behind the scenes with some of the most powerful people in the world, and how these ads and some of these strategies and the data making decisions and all of that kind of goes behind it. I think it's really fascinating if you just want to kind of riff on it, whatever direction you feel is appropriate.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I wrote the Undefeated Marketing System, which is a 5-step system for anybody that is frustrated with marketing and wants to figure out how to be more successful. You've seen the theme of this pod so far is first step is understand your audience, understand your customer, your client before you go spend a lot of money. Like, why would you spend $1 on anything? Like, I think it's one of the things I see the most frustrated with business owners is they go spend all this money to learn that nothing worked. I'd rather you spend a little money up front to figure out what's going to work so you don't have to go through that pain, right? So for us, we just have a very sophisticated way of looking at it on the data side, but it's to understand the customer and the client, or in politics, the voter, so that we can, deliver content, brand, ads, whatever it is that resonate with the people you're sending them to, right? So that's step one. Step two is okay, now that you know what your customer or your client, your voter thinks, you kind of have to put a plan in place, a strategic map. And what I mean by that, and we touched on it for a second earlier, but it's the Moneyball approach. What is your budget? What is your timelines? What's the messaging that you're going to use and test and try? The reason I say that is because if you have a $100,000 budget on your marketing, you should spend every single penny as efficiently as possible. And that can go in 100 different directions. And so you've got to be, you got to put a plan in place based on what you find in this data. And the third step is the building your brand. I always say, why did you build your brand this way? They said, well, we hired a marketing agency. And they said, the first thing we need to do is spend a bunch of money on our brand. And I'm like, but what if the brand doesn't resonate with your voter, customer, client? And they go, oh, I didn't think about that. And I'm like, right, because there's this lack of empathy in the business world, the marketing world, the entrepreneur. It's like, no, I have an idea. You must listen. Well, it's actually like, no, I have an idea. Let me figure out 8 different ways I could communicate that idea and figure out which one works the best. That's what you're trying to figure out. It's really that simple, right? So like in politics, if we find out, I always say, like, if I sit down with someone that's going to run for the governor of Arkansas, and I go, what do you want to run on? And that candidate says, I want to run on 27 different policy ideas. And I go, oh God, oh Lord, no one wants to hear your 27 ideas. They've got kids and soccer practices and football practices and dance, and no one's paying attention to that. I was like, what you've got to do is narrow that down. And when you look at the data, like we've been talking about, you find out what we would do typically is we would go into the field and lay out those 27 policy ideas that politician wants to talk about. And then what we find is that there's usually 1, 2, or 3 total issues within the 27 that will get that candidate to win by 50.1. And we're going back, right? So 50.1. And so from that point forward, I'm not talking about the other 24 issues or the other 25 issues. I'm talking about 2 or 3 issues. So when I build that brand, which is for us, step 3, the brand is only going to mention what issues? The 2 or 3 that we found in the data that says the voters care about these issues so much that they would vote for an unknown or even an unsavory candidate. They'd vote for a Republican even though they're Democrat, right? So that's why the brand is third, is to figure out where you resonate the most with that voter or that customer and make sure your brand is built around that. And then the 4th step, and this gets to what you were asking, Mike, is now that you've got the data, now that you have your strategic roadmap in place and your budgets and your timelines and you've built your brand, you go test the messages you find from that data. And let's say we found 3 messages. You go test those messages many different ways to figure out which one resonates the most, like not of those issues, but how you communicate each of those issues. So the question you had, and let me clarify something. I did not do this for Trump. This is Trump's digital team. His digital marketing director and I had coffee the day after the election, and this is what he told me. We were helping and doing some other stuff, but not that. So he said, this is after his 2016, but he said, Phillip, we would go on a Facebook and we knew that one message would crush. We just didn't know how it would crush. So we would put one message, and in that message, and then we would do 164 different versions of one ad. 164 versions of one message. Like, how? And he's like, well, we do one of the ads in a blue background, a green background, a red background. We have a man in the ad, a woman in the ad. We'd have a font size in the right corner, a different font size in the left corner. They did 164 versions of one ad. And he said, inevitably, 8 or 9 of the tests would blow through the roof. And even at a presidential level, billion-dollar campaign, they had no explanation as to why the green background with the African-American kid with the Times Roman font worked for this particular message. They didn't know. They had no idea. Completely clueless. But it worked. And it blew, like organically, it blew through all the other testing ads they did. Now, if you found in your testing of these messages that they knew this message would work. They just didn't know how it would work. So when they went in and they said that, they go, okay, so now they're about to spend $100 million on an ad. Are they about to spend $100 million on an ad and have no idea what to expect? Or do they, on 164 different versions, find out the ones that blow through the roof and then go, now we're going to go spend our money confidently, knowing that this thing's going to be successful. And we can go to the candidate, Trump, and say, here's why we're running this. And he's like, good, go. And then, you don't want to fail Trump. But they didn't have to, because they knew it was going to work. And it always did. And it was like guarantees. And this is what I'm trying to teach business owners, that the world of political campaigns, we can't afford to risk things not working, because our candidates either win or they go away forever. And if they go away forever, for me as a business owner, well, I don't make any more money off that politician. Or they could get elected to state house and then they run again a couple of years later for lieutenant governor, and then the governor, and then they run for U.S. Senate, and then they run for president. I got a client for 20 years. So who am I going to do everything I can to make sure they're successful? Who am I obsessed with their success? By the way, you didn't say, I'm obsessed with my success. I said, I'm obsessed with the candidate's success. I'm obsessed with my client's success. I'm obsessed with the voter and the customer more than I am my own client, because that's who I'm the advocate for. And that's how I look at it.
What's up, guys? Biggs here. I hope you enjoyed that clip. If you did, go ahead and check out the other video that's being recommended on the screen right now. You can also subscribe to our channel. And then if you really are interested in what we do, go to automatedelegatesystemize.com to learn more about what we're up to. Thanks again.